Well, it's springtime, my grass is greening up as you can see behind me, and I wanted today to do something a little different, give you 5 reasons to fire a lawn care service. Now maybe you are the lawn care service provider watching the video, or maybe you're a homeowner, but let's talk about what are the expectations, when's it okay to fire somebody. Today's video is sponsored by Yardbook. I've been using Yardbook to run my lawn care service since 2015. If you need a software to manage your lawn care business, go to yardbook.com and sign up for a free account. The first reason to fire a lawn care service is a no-show. Now I think there's got to be some consideration on this, okay? Put it in perspective here. If it rains 3 days during the week, okay, it rains Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and they're supposed to cut your grass on Thursday, it's possible that they're playing makeup to try to catch up the yards that they didn't cut Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And they might not just run right out and cut your Thursday yard on Thursday because they're behind schedule. So I'm not saying somebody doesn't show up one time, then they're gone, they're out the door. That's unreasonable in my opinion. What I try to do when I was mowing grass, I would tell the customers, say, listen, we mow, you know, these days during the week. Your normal day that we come to this neighborhood is Wednesday, let's just say. If it rains on Monday or Tuesday, then we're gonna try to get caught up as fast as possible. But, you know, a rain day could push you back a day. If you go ahead and set the expectation from the beginning, I think you head off a lot of the, you know, he just didn't show up, didn't call. And I don't think that you necessarily, I mean, you can do this if you want to. I don't think you necessarily have to call them or text them and say, hey, it's raining. I mean, hopefully at some point common sense kind of case, hush! At some point, kind of the common sense of the customer and the reasonableness kicks in and they don't fire you because you didn't show one time. Now, that's not often the case that I see with lawn care providers. I tell people often when they start a lawn business, they talk about how much competition's out there mowing grass. I say, listen, if you'll just show up and do a decent job, you're gonna be ahead of about 50% of the competition. I really believe that. I don't know why they tend to be unreliable, and maybe 50% is too many, but I think what I would do if I was starting a mowing business, I think I would schedule it 4 10-hour work days, Monday through Thursday, and have Friday as a makeup day and Saturday if needed. But by doing that, I think one, your employees might like that better, working 4 10-hour days versus 5 8-hour days or 5 10-hour days, whatever it would be. I think that would be motivating for them to get done. But then you also have that factored in that it may rain and I may get behind, or a piece of equipment may tear, whatever happens, and you can catch up. So I think sometimes what happens is lawn care providers start off small, they're doing it, everything's going great, but then they get busy, they get more and more customers, they're unable to scale successfully, and it's a downward spiral from there. They begin prioritizing and you know, so-and-so's lawn gets pushed on the back burner, they don't show up. If your lawn care provider consistently doesn't show up on weeks when it's nice weather, then something is alarming about that, and I would fire them. From the lawn care perspective, I think you want to schedule your yards where you just go to one neighborhood a certain day of the week and you do all the yards in that neighborhood. That's why I'm against having like weekly customers and 10-day customers. That's all weekly or maybe bi-weekly if you want to, but every Tuesday I come to this neighborhood. I don't come Tuesday this week, Friday the next week. I don't like the 10-day schedule personally. The second thing to mention is sloppy work. If they are just sloppy, and I mean, let me just give you an example, because that may sound a little vague, we're sloppy work. For instance, I do weed control and fertilization now. I'm not mowing grass for a living, but even in weed control, if I look at a yard and they've got some weeds in it, okay, I understand what weeds they have. Is that an easy weed control, a tough weed control? But if it's a bunch of easy weed, I'm thinking that's sloppy. Or you just missed an area and you got this one big section, it's all weedy in the lawn. From a mowing perspective, you know, if I looked at the yard after it was cut and it looked like this, I would think, okay, that's sloppy. They didn't take time to blow this off. If there's grass clippings still piled up on the driveway, I've even seen it where people will be mowing the grass, finishing mowing, they got a multi-person crew, and then they out there blowing at the same time. So basically they blow it off, but they're still mowing. And so you end up getting more clippings that end up on the driveway, and it's just lazy. That's not efficient, that's lazy. It's not you being very considerate to the customer. I mean, when I talk about sloppy too, you talk about the edging. I mean, this hasn't been edged, but if you see an edge, it just looks sloppy, you know, not edging the flower bed here. And I'm using this as an example. Skipping over things that could look a lot better if they just took their time. Again, sometimes these lawn care providers are in such a hurry, they get busy, or maybe they just don't care, which sometimes happens. I don't think that's usually the case, but sometimes they get so busy and so fast, and they're just rushing through the process trying to get done with the day, and they don't take time to make it look good. Now, I'm big on defending the lawn care provider on that they're not paid by the hour, okay? We're not out there and say, well, how long did it take? I don't care if it takes 10 minutes or 2 hours, whatever. You just got to make it look right, because I don't judge them. Say, I hear customers, they say, oh, he was only here for 10 minutes. He was only here for 12 minutes, or 8 minutes, whatever it is. If it's a small yard and you got 3 people out there, it doesn't take long at all to cut the grass. Okay, so don't judge them based on how long it took them. Judge on the quality of their work and how well it looks. Third thing I want to mention when you can fire somebody is if they don't take responsibility. What I mean by this is sometimes things get damaged. I've heard, I was talking to somebody yesterday or day before, I forget, and he was saying, yeah, talking about breaking a window. Look at all the windows on this property, and the windows get broken. I remember doing lawn work and using an edger, and I guess a rock flew behind me and just shattered the glass door. I remember, I don't know if it was an edger, a trimmer, whatever, and shattered my own truck window. Just boom, there it went, busted the window out of the truck, had to go get a new one. Things like that do happen. One time I had to pay to have somebody's car door painted. I guess I had to. A tiny scratch. I'm still not convinced we did it. I wasn't at the property at the time, but a complaint came, and of course it got blamed on the lawn service. So, there's two sides to this. I think sometimes it's easy to blame the lawn care provider. Hey, I don't remember this being broke till you came, and I don't think it's always the case of the lawn care provider. But anyway, I paid to have that person's car door painted, which wasn't cheap. Note on that is, oftentimes it makes more sense just to pay out of pocket and not claim it on your insurance, because if you do claim small things on your insurance goes up, it ends up costing you more money in the long run. Of course, I recommend having a general liability policy in case something significant happens. That would be helpful to cover those things. So the point here is not that if they break something, you should fire them. If they break something and they're unwilling to take responsibility for it, then I think you should fire them. And again, from a lawn care perspective, have a general liability policy. Try to be careful. Try to inform your workers that about some techniques that we're going to use to ensure safety and try to cause as least damage as possible. And if something happens, take responsibility for it and take care of it for that customer. I think by doing that, you honestly potentially earn a customer for life, because they'll see, okay, wow, that was crazy. He took responsibility, he paid for it out of pocket, he got it fixed in a timely manner. I know that this is a company that I want to work with for years to come. Fourth thing I want to mention is price gouging. Now, this can obviously go both ways, and I think a lot of lawn care people are underpriced, some are overpriced. I think the customers don't always have a realistic expectation of what it takes to operate a small business, even a local lawn care company with just 1 or 2 or 3 people. It still have to charge a decent price to be able to run it. Unless you're doing a lot of things illegally and under the table, it's very difficult to make enough money just unless you charge a fair price. Well, I think the customers need to understand that, and if you want to try to talk people down on their price, then I encourage lawn care people to just move on. You don't want that customer, because you can't, it's hard work, you get busy, sometimes the money in the wintertime is not as good, and you need to make a significant amount of money to pay for the overhead, the equipment, if you have employees, all that stuff is expensive. It's hard to go cut somebody's yard for 40 bucks and make any money. Now, with that being said, I think there's situations where the pricing is troublesome from my perspective. I've been hearing stories lately that kind of bother me, the way people do it. And one example is if the customer wants something done and asks for a quote, and then you just go do the work without giving them a quote and then send them an astronomical bill, that is not right. And I've heard stories about this that just blew my mind, that that's how people operate their business. You provide the quote up front. If they agree to the quote, fine, you're good. Do the work, get paid. If they But you don't just go do it and then send them a bill, you know, oh, we'll take care of it, you know, whatever, and then send them a bill that's ridiculous and then expect them to pay that. That's not how you do business. And if your company is doing you that way, then I would absolutely fire them. I think if you love your lawn care provider and they're doing an outstanding job, and you think, well, they might be a little bit on the expensive side, but they're doing a great job, fine, that's up to you. You gotta work both ways, and that's as simple as I know how to put it. Because again, sometimes the customer wants to talk you down and get you lower and lower and lower. I'll give you an example. I had a lady that in my city that was a customer up until a few months ago. And I've been dealing with her yards. And I remember when I first got her yard, I was starting out my new business, and I had some people that were mowing grass, a company, and they would send their weed control and fertilization customers to me. They sent her yard to me, and they tell me, they text me and say, hey, she can't pay any more than $60, I think it was, which is unusual. I mean, she lived in a really nice house, drove a nice car, and I'm like, can't pay more than $60. I mean, well, anyway, whatever reason, not being as smart as I should have been on that day, I accepted that. I said, okay, whatever, $60. It was underpriced. It wasn't terribly underpriced, but it was definitely underpriced. And I go out there, it's got at least 3 different grass types: Bermuda, zoysia, centipede, all mixed together, which is, from a lawn care perspective, a little bit of pain if you're talking about weed control and fertilization. And so I do it, $60, and guess what happens? She starts complaining. Now, the customers don't always understand that when you got Bermuda and centipede mixed in there together, if I spray it like a Bermuda yard, I'm gonna really beat up your centipede and turn it yellow. If I spray it like a centipede yard, it's not gonna be as more sensitive, it's not gonna be as good a weed control, you're gonna probably end up with some weeds. It's very tricky. Now, if it's one section is Bermuda, one section is centipede, okay, that's still a pain. But if it's all mixed together, it's even worse in my opinion. Explain that to the customer. Next year, complain because it got spring weeds. Next year, complain. I did finally go up on the price of $65. And then I was doing 6 treatments a year on that particular yard. And they said, well, could you just do 4 treatments? I don't know, 6 seems too many. Is that how many you used to do? You know, that sort of thing. Well, guess what happened? Eventually, me, lawn care provider, says, hey, I don't need this in my life anymore. And I let her know that I would no longer be servicing her yard. Here's some other companies that would probably take care of it. And as a matter of fact, I went by there the other day, she had a sign in a company I'm pretty sure does 8 treatments a year. Now maybe they do it different on a yard like that, I don't know. So ultimately, her complaining, her talking me down on the price, I can only afford this, could you do less treatments? It ended up costing her me, and maybe she's happy about that. I'm not saying that I was doing a better job. I'm just saying it's got to work for both parties. And the lawn care people, believe it or not, have a high demand for their services. And so if you think I can get one at a cheap price and complain all the time, I encourage the lawn care person, hey, please fire that customer. And it goes both ways. If they're not showing up, they're not doing a good job, then the customer can fire a lawn care provider. It's got to work for both parties. And the 5th thing I want to mention is that you can fire your lawn care provider really for no good reason other than you found somebody better. And I think that's okay. I remember when I started my first lawn care business, I had some people that had plenty of money, took care of their lawn, had a great provider, and they wanted to support me and my new business because of a personal relationship there. And I really appreciated that. And you may have family and friends that do that. And so if they want to give somebody else a chance, or they just found somebody that's better, that's okay. I think that's healthy for business, even on a local level, because, you know, from a business owner standpoint, I would love to be in a town that had virtually no competition, and you could sort of get by with sloppier work. Not that I would want to do that, and charge higher prices. But the competition is healthy because it holds the lawn care provider accountable. If I'm not delivering up to a reasonable expectation, being reliable, providing good results and good customer service, then guess what? You got all these other companies to choose from. You can fire me and go to someone else. So I think that's a healthy thing. I don't look at that as a negative anyway as a lawn care provider, and certainly the customer has the right to cancel and move on to somebody else. And that's what helps us in industry professionals to continue to work to be better at our craft. I appreciate you listening to me. I'm Jason Creel. If you hadn't done so, subscribe to the channel, like it, share it, comment, all that stuff. Also want to mention, if you need resources to get into weed control and fertilization like me, or just start a mowing business, you can go to lawncarelife.com. There's also details coming out about the 2025 Lawn Care Life Conference, which we're excited about, which will be in February 2025. But thanks for watching. We'll see you guys in the next video.